The email arrived at 8:47 in the morning. Subject: Organizational restructuring, effective immediately. Maren read it twice before she even took her coat off. 12 years. 12 years of 6 a.m. flights, client dinners she paid for out of pocket when the company forgot to reimburse her. 12 years of being the person Gerald Whitfield called first when a deal was falling apart. And now, restructuring. Funny word, isn't it? Restructuring. It's the corporate word for, we've already decided, we just haven't told you the real reason yet. The worst part wasn't the termination. It was the 2 weeks before it, when Gerald asked her, almost sheepishly, avoiding her eyes, to bring Tyler up to speed on the 𝗏 account. Tyler. 26. Gerald's nephew. 6 months out of a marketing certificate program, the kind of confidence that comes from never having failed at anything that mattered. She trained him anyway. Every login. Every client quirk. The fact that the CFO at 𝗏 hated being emailed after 4 p.m. The fact that their biggest client, 𝗬ście Textiles, needed to feel heard before they'd sign anything, not sold to, heard. She gave him everything. And I think that's the part that still sits wrong with me, watching this back. She wasn't just fired. She was asked to hand her replacement the keys to her own house before they changed the locks. On her last day, Gerald stood in the doorway of her office, didn't come in, just stood there, hand on the frame like he needed something to hold on to. Maren, he started. She didn't look up from the box she was packing. You don't have to explain it, Gerald. I know how this looks. She finally looked at him. Does it matter how it looks if it's true? He opened his mouth. Closed it. 12 years, and that's what he had. Silence. 3 months later, Maren was sitting across from Diane Okafor, VP of Client Strategy at Bregman & Hale, Whitfield & Cole's biggest competitor, the company Gerald used to call the Wolves in meetings. I'm not looking for revenge, Maren said, and even she wasn't sure if that was true. I'm looking for a place where competence is still the whole job description. Diane hired her that week. No dramatic music here. No triumphant montage. Just a woman, quietly rebuilding, one Tuesday at a time. She didn't call the clients first. That was the mistake people expected her to make, the aggressive, obvious poaching. Instead, she waited. She showed up at the same industry conference 𝗬ście Textiles always attended. Sat 2 tables away. Didn't approach. 8 months in. It was Marcus Reyes who called her. Tyler's good, he said carefully, in the tone people use when they mean the opposite, but he doesn't remember that we don't like being pitched. He pitches. You used to just talk to us. She didn't say anything bad about Tyler. Not once. This is where a lot of stories like this go wrong. The hero starts sounding bitter, starts taking shots. Maren never did. And honestly, that restraint is what made people trust her again. By month 11, she'd brought over 𝗬ście Textiles, then 𝗏, then a mid-size logistics client Whitfield & Cole had held for 9 years. 3 of Whitfield & Cole's top 5 accounts. Gone. Quietly. Professionally. No lawsuits, no scenes, just better service, offered patiently, by someone who remembered how they took their coffee. Then, in February, she got a call from someone she hadn't expected. Sandra Pike. Former bookkeeper at Whitfield & Cole. Someone Maren barely knew, they'd shared a hallway, not a friendship. I don't know if I should be calling you, Sandra said, voice tight. But I think you should know what actually happened. Before everything came out publicly. And here's where the story I thought I understood, the story I'd already decided how to feel about, started to come apart in my hands. Sandra explained it slowly, like she was still processing it herself. Gerald's brother-in-law, Tyler's father, had been quietly siphoning money from client retainers for almost 2 years. Small amounts. Invoices padded. Payments routed through a shell vendor. And the department where it was happening, the department whose books it touched. Maren's department. Her name was on approvals for invoices she'd never personally reviewed, Gerald had been signing off using her authorization code, thinking it was a harmless shortcut, never imagining it would matter. When the fraud was finally uncovered by an external audit, the one that became public 4 months after Maren left, 3 senior staff in her old department were named in the investigation. She wasn't one of them. Because she was already gone. Gerald hadn't restructured the department to punish her. He'd done it to remove her before the audit reached her name, knowing that if she stayed even 1 more month, innocent wouldn't have mattered. Proximity would have. He put his own nephew in the blast radius instead. Someone with no real financial signing authority. Someone the investigators would clear in a week, because he genuinely hadn't done anything, except exist as the excuse Gerald needed to move Maren out without telling her why. He never said it. Couldn't say it. Maybe because saying it out loud would have meant admitting how bad it actually was. Or maybe, and this is the part that gets me, maybe he just didn't think he deserved her gratitude. He thought he was already too late to earn it. Maren sat with that for 3 days before she called him. He picked up on the second ring. Like he'd been waiting. "I heard," she said. A long pause. She could hear him breathing, somewhere on the other end, in an office that used to feel like part of her. "I should have told you," he finally said. I didn't know how to say, 'I'm protecting you,' without it sounding like I was asking for something back." She didn't say it was okay. It wasn't, not entirely. 12 years deserved more than a silent exit. But she didn't hang up either. "I would have stayed and fought," she said quietly. "If you'd told me the truth." "I know," Gerald said. "That's why I didn't." Here's the thing about betrayal, real betrayal, not the kind we perform for an audience. Sometimes it doesn't look like someone hurting you on purpose. Sometimes it looks like someone hurting you carefully, because the alternative was worse. And you don't get to know which one it was until much later, until you've already grieved, already rebuilt, already decided who to become without them. Maren never went back to Whitfield and Cole. She didn't need to. She'd built something else, something entirely her own, out of the wreckage of an ending she never got to choose. But every year, on the anniversary of that email, she still thinks about Gerald standing in her doorway, hand on the frame, unable to say the one sentence that would have changed everything. Some people protect you by pushing you away. It doesn't make the leaving hurt less. But it might mean you were never as alone in it as you thought.